Hey, Barrett Edelstein here, your celeb expert and your Celeb Savant. Celeb Savant is a weekly entertainment show. We have long-form career retrospective type interviews with celebrities, singers, actors, and industry experts. Haris Čustović is a multifaceted music professional with expertise in DJing, music production, composition, and songwriting. Haris finds inspiration in a wide range of genres, including minimalism, rock, classical, jazz, funk, dance, electronic, and world music. He has contributed to shaping the original London tech house sound alongside a bunch of talented artists, and has been releasing music that resonates across different music scenes and collaborating with artists who share the same vision since the late 90s. Following a need for exciting, fresh, current yet timeless sounds, in 2000 Haris founded La Musique, a label that values innovation and believes in releasing forward-thinking music. After completing a Sound Arts MA at London's University of Arts in 2009, this opened up another world of sound possibilities and turned his thinking and practice to a conceptual direction. Haris is also a working composer, writing music for major production music publishers. His music is used by many filmmakers and featured on various major TV stations and production houses worldwide. Up next on Celeb Savant, we've got Haris Čustović. Where do we find you in the world? How are you doing and what's happening in your life?
Hey, thank you so much for your invitation. What's happening in my life? Quite a few things at the moment. I'm living in Dubrovnik in Croatia, so we had quite a busy season. Apart from doing some occasional gigs here and there, I've been writing music, to be honest, kind of getting my head around these plethora of new concepts that are kind of popping out and around at the moment, like a research bit. But yeah, I'm getting ready on on the to have like a studio bender. So to stay in the studio for quite a few months and lock myself in and make quite a few new tracks. I think that's my plan. So yeah, getting myself inspired. I think that's the main thing I'm doing at the moment.
Let's rewind to the beginning of your journey in the entertainment world or music world. So at what age, whether it was as a child or teenager or whenever, did you realize, cool, this is the path I want to take? And how did that journey accumulate to where we are today?
Well, basically, I can't remember when I started playing music and playing with music instruments. It was more kind of like a crossfade from this child's stage, which is like up to 3 or 4, where you don't really remember a lot. And I think this is where my stepfather kind of showed me the keyboard a little bit, and we had this old harmonium, which is like accordion with a fan in there. And that's what's kind of like the first keyboard I've used when I was really young. And my stepfather was a musician, and he had before he passed away, he made 5 albums with his band here in Dubrovnik, and they played all sorts of things, mainly world music kind of style, which is typical for this area of the world. Actually, I was lucky, to have him as my parent. Because then he put me into music school when I was, I think, 8, and I did about 7 years we have like 6 years of primary, one year before primary, and 4 years of music high school. So I went to a specific school which was just for music, which wasn't economy or maths. It was a high school for music, which is something we have in Croatia. I don't think it's common on other parts of the world. In England, for instance, they have high school, but then from the 3rd year of the high school, you can take 2 years as like music technology or something like that. But there is no specific school, which is kind of in the governmental system that it's also, a music school. So that's what I did. And after that, there were some troubles here in the Balkans in the early 90s. So after the troubles, I went moved to London, to England. And that's kind of where I've started to get involved with music more and more. Before I left for London, here in Croatia, I had a band. I was playing keyboards, and I also played in orchestra. And I helped to produce some of my stepfather's albums. Also, I played some things on there as well. So I had some experience, and also I had music school, and I played piano and violin, which was kind of useful. And I played a little bit of guitar, and I sang a little bit too in that time. So when I moved to London, my first music job was busking. So I was kind of busking in the same spot where Beatles were busking in Leicester Square in Tottenham Court Road. So which was kind of cool, when you're 20 and you're busking in London, you're making, I don't know, if you make £50 a day, that's kind of amazing, because you're just out of school and you're in new town. So that was kind of cool for me. And after that, I got hooked up with some musicians. I've started going to jam sessions, playing with some, UK African musicians as well, Jamaican musicians, native English musicians as well. So also people from all over the world would come to those jam sessions, and that was kind of you would wait on the side of the stage, until one of them gets tired or makes too many mistakes, and then the guy who runs the session, he goes, "Go off, you next." So that was cool as well, and that's where I met quite a few musicians and started playing in bands, and doing live gigs and stuff like that. And I also played in one of the ex-Yugoslavian clubs in London, which was called Golden Parrot, and this club was like right in the middle of Leicester Square. It was called Zubar Venom Place, and this is where they brought a lot of these quite famous people, back in the day in former Yugoslavia, and I actually played for them, with them, and I've did the sound for them as well, when that was necessary, and I also DJ'd. That's kind of where I got into DJing, and after that I kind of got the electronic music bug, because of the vinyl and records that were there, because the live gigs weren't, in the live gig venue, proper live gig venue. This was in the club, in like a basement of a big club, and bands would play on the club's sound system. You can imagine the feedback.
Yes.
Place. So, but we had our ways to keep the, volume loud without the feedback, using gates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So after that, I kind of wanted to be, more independent, and I've got into electronic scene, like electronic music scene, really in 97, 98. That was more or less in the same time, late 90s. And then in 2000, I started my own label. I was working for this studio in in the South London, in Croydon, called the Swag Studio, and this is where people like Terry Francis came out, and all the tech house, Eddie Richards, and all the tech house kind of godfathers, people who actually figured out tech house before it turned into what it is today, which is kind of like quite a commercial. It's like a pop house, really, more than tech house. But this version of tech house is now called more minimal or anything like that, and a little bit more arty and experimental music. That's kind of what attracted me. And I was there. I was at Swag for a few years, and after that, when I started my own label, obviously through contacts at Swag, I got offered to have a P&D deal on a label, which is a press and distribution deal, where I would give them the music, they would press the records for me, and then we would do all the counting later on. And that allowed me to, this kind of budget allowed me to have a stream of releases. So I had, 30, 40, 50 releases, something like that, in the next 10 years, alongside with all the remixes and all that other work. But in the same time, I was also playing with with bands, but also with some DJs, they would play music, and I would bring the keyboard, and I would kind of jam along, with the decks and stuff like that. And that was quite cool, actually, to cross over this live element and playing with the DJing. And to be honest with you, after, let's say, 10 years of DJing and touring, and because I've DJed, well, I've been to Singapore, I've been to Sydney, Tokyo, I went over America and South America quite a few times. I did quite a few clubs in Europe, and I don't know how these guys can do it for 30, 40 years, but for me, even after 10 years, it was like up to 10 years, it was really exhausting. And I would get really tired and really depressed, after all the fun. Then they would come back to grey London, stuff like that. I kind of thought, I need to do something different here. I need to do something else because I'm quite curious. So I like to explore different things. So I thought, let's see where I can go from the classical music, jazz, funk, jam sessions, electronic music, and DJing. And I've seen this masters for sound arts in London, in University of Arts in London. And I thought I don't have much chance to get accepted, because obviously I didn't do all the grades. But I showed them all the materials that I've been, working on, and all the records I did, and all the other stuff. They said yes, come in and do the MA. So I did 1 year of MA of sound arts, finishing with audiovisual work, because I really wanted to go more into kind of into that world, into kind of multimedia world, and to explore the area between music and picture, not just to do music and see what could happen with the music, but to actually interfere and intervene and see how I can combine those two. Okay. And that's kind of what my work has been really influenced by, this MA, because it really changed my thinking. I wasn't thinking anymore about the oscillators and frequencies and decibels and I don't know, even harmony. I've started thinking about concepts and how you can say more with music, and how you can make music even when it doesn't have words, how you can make it meaningful. So it's not just why are you doing it? Are you doing it just for fun, for for the backstage, for clubs, for groupies, for fans, or are you really doing it for love of music or for exploration? That's kind of the question I've been asking myself. And, from then on, I've started teaching as well. And I taught at quite a few colleges and academies in London, including School of Audio Engineering, SAE, which is quite a famous school. I've been there for nearly 2 years, and I did quite a lot in there. I mean, I could have stayed more, but I wanted to do something else. So I wanted to, have more time to make music again. So I kind of, stopped teaching and, spending a lot more time in the studio nowadays.
How long ago did you stop teaching and move back to Croatia?
I've never really, moved back to Croatia as such. I've been moving, I think about 6 or 7 times.
Okay.
Like maybe recently I've been here a little bit longer, but in the past years I've been kind of between, London and Dubrovnik. So I would, but I was here for maybe 6 months or a year, and then I went to teach, first time, and then I came back, and then I went to teach, and another time. But I don't know, in the future we'll see. But to be honest with you, cost of living is still less here in Croatia than in England, and I feel that I have, now that I'm 51. I think I have my head screwed on a little bit more than I had when I was 20 something, and I can appreciate, the quiet moments and the time, that I have, and especially the time that I have for music here, which is really not uninterrupted, and that's kind of what I wanted to have a place anywhere in the world. And some people go to Thailand, some people go to, I don't know, wherever. And make music, but for me it was kind of like Croatia to find peace of mind, so you can really kind of dig deep inside and bring out the best you can when it comes to music. So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
So when you're now creating the music now moving forward, what genre of music, or is it just going to be a mix and you're just going to go into the studio and let the energy guide you?
Probably bit of all of that you just mentioned. But I've been always fan of fusion. Fan of combining perhaps the opposites. I see how they can fit together. To kind of take the concept of diversity, of worldwide diversity, and put that into music. So sometimes you can get like a real mishmash of things, and it's like making cocktails. I think everyone loves cocktails, but if you put too many things into a cocktail, it just becomes a brown liquid. It really loses any taste. You don't really know if it tastes like this or tastes like that. So I think with music it's the same thing. I think if you if you fuse too many things together, it just becomes a mash. But it could be interesting. You never know what people are going to like, because you're thinking always subjectively what you think. And I know that sometimes I did some things that I thought, oh my God, this is so minimal, so simple, this is so uninteresting. I need to put more on this. This kind of like the sound isn't all that, and the arrangement isn't that great. It's maybe A B for me, if that. And I played to someone and they said, wow, this is such a crazy track you made. Wow. I said, well, yeah, but it's not finished yet. Yeah, I have to change it. It's not finished. No, don't touch it. It's good. It's perfect. I'm like, what? So you can get those situations as well. And I've heard from a lot of producers. I'm not like that. I'm still thinking, working on how to be like this. But I've heard from many producers that they say, when I make my track, unless I'm playing it live, I don't listen to it.
Okay.
So as soon as I finish it, it's done. I'm done listening to it, because every time I listen to it, I'm questioning my work. I'm questioning myself. I want to go back to it. And if you want to go back to it every time, it's not finished, because you keep reworking it. It's like car in the garage that has a paint job. You can always do a little bit more on the paint.
You
can always do a little bit more on the production too, and it's never ending. Sometimes you just have to say, okay, this is it. This is where I'm at. This is who I am. This is kind of the main thing to realize. This is who I am at the moment, and this is reflecting through my music. And if I don't love myself, if I don't love what I'm doing, then I'll always want to be someone else and change it. But if I say, well, this is me at the moment, and to get better, I will probably need 3 or 4 or 5 times more time than I think I need. But this is where I'm now. But look where I've been. Look where I came from. Like exactly. I didn't know anything, when I was 12. But look, now I'm actually making decent tracks.
No, but of course, because it's a journey, and you keep learning and you keep progressing and you keep getting better. So what you did 5 years ago will not be what you do now, because you've learned different techniques or you've learned whatever. So absolutely, totally agree with you. But now when you're producing, is it production for yourself or is it for other artists, or combination of both?
Well, it's a combination of both, to be honest with you. That I've been just working with this girl. She's a really good singer. I kind of helped her craft her arrangement and, get her song to, where towards where it should be. But also I'm working on my own material. Yes. I'm working on some material for my label, which, released a lot of electronic music, which was aimed to go to clubs. But now I'm kind of, rethinking the label as well and seeing how I can, change the sound. But I still have some dance tracks that I probably put on it just to, to end it off. But, I'm thinking how I can come up with something not new, but just different, just have like a different combination of elements that are already present and that we're using. Because like people are thinking they can reinvent music, or even worse, invent music, but music has already been invented.
Yes.
And it's, those 12 notes that you have in a chromatic scale, there's only so many acceptable combinations for someone's ear that you can play on those 12 notes. So, I'm thinking how I can, use those 12 notes in an interesting way, so not just kind of to think, oh, I'm going to make my own synthesizer and I'm going to, raise my own goats and sheep and make my own drums and stuff like that.
From 0 to a 3 to 4 minute song, production, creating, writing, etc. Is it easy every time? What motivates it? What invigorates you to keep doing it? Let's dive into your creative world.
Okay, well, I like to come into the studio, even though I have a studio and I have quite a few synths and tools, mics and everything. Even though, I could actually come here and say, look, I'm just going to, fiddle with some knobs and keys and see what I'm going to come up with. I like to come in with an idea, because then, the time in the studio is limited. Even if you don't have wife and kids, you still have to eat, and, a lot of people have to pay rent. And Music is not like a taxi job where every day you're going to get money, but it's kind of wavy. It's quite wavy business.
Yeah.
I like to use my time outside of the studio to work on the stuff for the studio. If I know I'll have tomorrow from 10 o'clock, I'm here. I'll probably, night before, I'll put some headphones on and put an iPad or something and just go through some stuff on various platforms, without advertising any sharks, any platforms, even promos that I'm getting from a lot of people, and see what they're doing, and see what's the vibe, and how I can be part of this community of music producers and users, kind of like make stuff for, and also and make stuff for users, like video editors or producers or anything like that, and kind of have an idea of what I'm going to do, and then when I come to the studio, then I'll have some sort of idea of a harmony, if I'm starting with chords. If it's more of a melodic thing, then obviously you start with chords or just with the melody. I find that starting with chords is quite good. If it's an electronic music track, I'll probably go through some loops and just pull out a quick loop and start making a bass line and some keys and whatever it needs, whatever I think that kind of thing needs. The way I finish tracks, it just depends on the track.
Okay.
I kind of like to I also like to have a purpose for the track. So
yes,
if I'm making it, not just to make it for whatever, and then we'll see where is it going to be. That can be such a waste of time, and I'm not thinking like a capitalist, commercialist.
Yes.
Everything needs to be sold and everything needs to be maximized. No, I'm thinking that there needs to be artistic value, but I think you can pump up that artistic value if you have a cause, and if you have obviously people to impress. If you need to impress somebody in order to, get the gig, get the job, obviously you're gonna try and do it, but because that's your work, you're making music. That's your. At the end of the day, that is, without being hardcore capitalist, that's your product. They say that people who music business are a lot more successful than people who just know music. So I think both they need to today in this day and age. Maybe in the 70s, where Arista or somebody had a huge budget and gave it to you as an artist, you could mess about. But nowadays, especially when you have to do everything yourself and do all the promotion yourself and do all the contacting yourself and even contacting music supervisors yourself, it's that can take you quite a lot of time. So again, I say that my work is quite streamlined. I'm thinking, how can I finish this rather than how can I stretch it out and try a million things. I'm thinking like what this needs, how I'm going to put it together, and how I'm going to put it out. It's quite detailed and complicated, the whole process, but this is like a little bit of an outline.
Now, you mentioned that previously you were playing in bands and you were also DJing. You loved them both, obviously, because you did them equally. But what is the difference? But from the person who's experienced both, can you guide us of what, like maybe the 3 or 4 main differences between the two, so the listening audience could get an understanding?
The main difference is the timing. Okay. When it comes to DJing and playing in bands, unless you have a band that is using like a click track or a drum machine, behind the drummer or something like that. But most bands, they won't do that because that kind of goes against the principles of a live band. Because in rhythm machine, when you're using rhythm machines and doing house music or anything like that, it's your tempo, or you also trap, hip hop. Your tempo is constant, so it's going to be 90 or 126 all the time. But if you are playing in band, you're going to have small fluctuations in time. So the drummers are not, they're humans. We're still not using robots for drummers, and I don't think we will, in foreseeable time, because obviously people have a lot more. Of course, they have a human feel, but they have, for other people, I think they have a lot more feel than machines have. But still, machines have their soul. There's a duo from Scotland called Silicon Soul, and I was always taking their name for kind of this feeling that you get from electronic music. It's silicon. It's kind of artificial, but it still has soul. These are, for me, the difference: the timing and obviously flexibility, because we, with live band you can just go, let's just go into C now, 1 2 3 C.
Yes.
And if you want to do that with machines, you can't just press the key and everything will go C. You'll have to do each machine separately. You'll have to play something in C and then have that switch if you've been playing in G, for instance, and now you're in C. You'll have to reprogram that. But also with anything, when you have five guys or in the band, you kind of feed off each other and you breathe off each other. You catch each other's breath almost. Because you're obviously all going up and down in the same time with the music. You're kind of grooving with the music, and you connect, and you can do quite a lot quite quickly that you can't with electronic music. But then also there's a sound too, because live band will have a lot more reverb, a lot more ambience when they're playing. Because obviously live band will play in the space, and each space has acoustic properties. In the box there are no acoustic properties. You have obviously you have all the electronics, and you have the flow of energy going through the circuits and through all the electronics, accordingly, depending what you're doing, and what's the voltage that goes from A to B. That's that question. But when it comes to emitting the sound from the mixing desk from all these machines, you are only then pumping the sound into the space. So you kind of have a lot less reverb, if you want, or ambience in those sounds before they go into space. When it comes to the live band, you won't have that, because the live band is by default always loud and acoustic.
Haris, I know if I had to ask you this question in 2 days, 2 hours, 2 years, I know your answer would be different every time. I understand that, and I get that, because there's millions of them. But if you had to push play to 5 songs by other artists once we finish this conversation, what would those 5 songs be, and by whom?
First one, I think, must be Time by Pink Floyd. I think that's my song, I think, number 1. Then I'd probably want to play something by Orb. There's a song called The Box by The Orb. I quite like that. Then I would probably play something by Nirvana, a song called Lake of Fire. I think that is quite good. Then probably I would play something by Albinoni, something like that. Like kind of like a big orchestral track. In the end, it probably would have to be something like something by Amon Tobin or someone like that. So I always thought of this radio presenter that passed away from England called John Peel. Mm-hmm. Him or someone like Giles Peterson. These are kind of DJs that really inspire me through the years, because they kind of had no borders. They were thinking outside of the box, and they're like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you belong to a hardcore raver cult group. You can still listen to Mozart.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter if you're kind of a jazz man. You could still maybe listen to like a Japanese underground noise track, something like that, something like Roji Keida or something like that, crazy. So, this is my really mentality when it comes to music. I'm trying not to be sticking to one genre strictly, but still to have a still to have some sort of sound and technique that you're using, the techniques and the instruments that you're using, that will give you a certain sound. If you do all the tracks using the same bass guitar through the same settings and same drum kit, even if you play on one, you play like death metal, another one you play, I don't know, some African folk song, it's probably going to be, the sound will be the same, because you're using the same instruments.
Podcast is listened to throughout the world. So as a final message to the listening audience, what would you like to say?
Oh, if you are into making music, don't give up, and if you need to get a second job, get it, because it's more important to stay in this business than to live off this business, if this is what you want to do. And also to stay open-minded for different kinds of music, not to diss other kind of music, because the beauty is in the ear of the beholder. Just remember that music is there to connect people, and still it is today. So, get connected through music, collaborate, go and dance.